Good Wednesday morning, friends, or afternoon, or evening, or whenever you happen to join. For those that I may not know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Finley, our Momentum and Discipleship Pastor here at First United Methodist Church in Kirksville. And this is our midweek time to pause together, to maybe continue to drink your morning coffee or tea, and to wonder together how and where God is meeting us, how and where God is at work in our world. I've shared before that asking that question has transformed my own personal practices of faith over these last few years in ways that are beautiful and amazing. Some weeks, answering that question, where have you seen God this week, is relatively easy. And there are other weeks where it is not. And as we practice this practice over time, we acknowledge that that ebb and flow is normal and natural, and God is at work whether or not we can sense it. But there are some times when we can sense it more fully than others. And I'll admit that this is one of those weeks where I wasn't sure exactly how to answer that question. And as I thought about it, as I prayed about it, as I wondered together with God, as I journaled, I realized that one of the places God most recently has met me is in the cicadas. God met me in the cicadas. And yes, before any of you send a laughy emoji and wonder if I have completely gone crazy, let me explain. I know that all of us, at least up here in Kirksville and many other places in Missouri, endured the invasion of the cicadas early in the summer. Back in May, we had all of those cicadas, the two overlapping broods that just seemed to completely take over. We even had one or two singing with us in worship because they had managed to hitch a ride inside. And if you're anything like me, while there was some adventure in having that much life around, it wasn't super comfortable, and most of us were very glad to see those cicadas go back into the ground. And I'm not sure any of us would necessarily have said that God met us in that storm of cicadas. But there is also the annual cicadas, the ones that we start to hear about this time of year if we're outside on an evening, where we start to hear not that loud, overwhelming sound of all of the two broods that we had last spring, but that slightly more gentle hum that starts to come in the evenings of this time of year. I think I've shared with some of you before that for me, hearing those cicadas this time of year always starts to help me move into a new season. I've shared before that one of the practices that I grew up with was my dad reading to me every single night from the time I was a small child up through about high school and college when I would come home for breaks. And our reading ranged really widely. But early on, as a young child, I was enamored with Charlotte's Web. And I'm pretty sure we read that book over and over and over again, which is why there's a phrase from it that is just embedded in my mind and really probably my spirit and my soul at this point. There's a place in that book where the cicada hum of this time of year, as we start to move into August and September, is described as the cicadas chanting, "Summer is over and gone, over and gone, over and gone, summer is over and gone." And I can't hear the cicadas this time of year without hearing that. And those of us who live on the academic calendar rhythms, on the one hand, that's a little terrifying that we're moving into August and summer really is starting to ebb out of our fingers like sand. And also, it's always a reminder to me that seasons do change, and that when we're in a season of life that maybe feels difficult, there will be a season after it that feels less difficult. And that when we're in a season that is beautiful and lovely, that there may be a season after it that feels less so, and that God will dwell with us in each of those seasons. So God met me in the cicada sound. For me, it's also a lovely reminder of that practice of reading with my dad and the love that was conveyed through it. So while I do not wish for the cicada plague to come back from early in the summer, this late summer cicada noise is actually something that I find beautiful and comforting, and a reminder of changing seasons and God's presence with us in and through that, which reminded me of this poem. I've read a bit of it before, but I thought I would share it again. It's called Sounding the Seasons. Tangled in time, we go by hints and guesses, turning the wheel of each returning year. But in the midst of failures and successes, we sometimes glimpse the love that casts out fears. I'll read that again. Tangled in time, we go by hints and guesses, turning the wheel of each returning year. But in the midst of failures and successes, we sometimes glimpse the love that casts out fear. Friends, there's a lot in our world that brings fear. In our own personal lives, in our world, in our national politics, all of those things. And sometimes, in unexpected ways, we catch the love that reminds us that we are not alone. And for me this week, that was the sound of cicadas. It might not be for you, but I wonder what it is for you. What right now is reminding you of the love that helps us, that shows up for us, even in the midst of all of the fear that swirls? How is it that God is showing up? And it might be something as simple as the sound of cicadas. Whatever that is for you, I hope that you listen this week. Cherish that, hold on to it, and share it. And if it is something unusual, please share it, because know that you are not alone, that we see God in all kinds of ways. Go in peace, my friend.